Human activities impact birds and exotic animals in multiple ways. There are the impacts that we have on wild populations directly, and also the impacts resulting from the legal and illegal trade in exotic animals. As our cities and our farms increasingly encroach into previously forested lands, we're increasingly impacting on wild animals. They're impacted by the destruction of their habitats directly and by pollutants such as noise, light and chemicals. In particular, we're talking about things like organic pollutants such as PCBs, heavy metals and things like mercury that often wash into waterways and make their way into the oceans where they are toxic to aquatic animals including fish. Human-wildlife conflict occurs when herding animals such as elephants or wildebeest come into places like human townships in search of food or seek to migrate along historical migration routes which have been interfered with by fences. As roads are carved into previously pristine forests to support operations like logging or the construction of dams, this also allows hunters to travel into previously unhunted regions in search of exotic animals for things like the bushmeat trade, for use in traditional medicine, and also for ornamentation for tourists. Wild animals can also be impacted by researchers seeking to actually study them. Some of the techniques that we use to determine information about wild animals involves attaching devices to their bodies or even implanting them surgically under their skin. And some of these methods can be quite invasive for animals. Wildlife is traded both legally and illegally. The legal trade alone is worth billions of dollars and has increased quite substantially in the last quarter of a century. It's driven by increasing demand from zoos, aquaria, private collectors, laboratories, and so on. Surveys have demonstrated that exotic, non-traditional pets comprise around 34 to 63% of all companion animals depending on the surveyed country. However, these figures are believed to be a substantial underestimate because of the vast illegal trade in wild animals. In the largest market in China, some 50% of all traded turtle species are believed to be illegally traded. In Indonesia, the illegal trade in amphibians and reptiles is believed to comprise some 44% of the entire trade. Globally, between 25 to 44% of all wild exotic animals are believed to be illegally traded. The illegal trade in wildlife is a major illicit trade, being third only after the illegal trade in drugs and arms respectively. Animals are often smuggled using the same routes as for other illegal trades and unfortunately often have very high mortality rates when smuggled in these ways. When wildlife are trapped, the methods used are often highly stressful to the animals concerned. Cages may be used, as may be steel-jaw traps, snares and nets. The impacts for the animals concerned are direct injuries, fear, stress, distress, disruption of social networks and of course in some cases death. Capture myopathy results when animals are pursued over long distances undergoing unusual and sustained levels of exercise and actually causes muscle damage and breakdown. Because of these problems, the mortality rates during the times of capture can be very high, reaching close to 100% in the case of wild-caught fish. After capture, animals are transported to distribution centres and then further transported, eventually reaching the homes of collectors. And mortality can be substantial during prolonged transportation. The number of Mexican wild parrots that survive is believed to be only around 25% of the total number captured. During both the illegal and legal trades in exotic animals, animals die from conditions such as starvation, dehydration, temperature extremes, crushing, lack of air, and accumulated stressors. After arriving in the homes of collectors, it can sometimes be quite difficult to meet the specialised nutritional needs of exotic animals. Rabbits, for example, have a special requirement for highly fibrous diets. Reptiles and amphibians have requirements for plenty of calcium and ultraviolet light. Sugar gliders have requirements for plant and insect exudates. Collectors may be unaware or may lack the facilities required for the specialised husbandry and care requirements for many of these exotic species. For example, reptiles and amphibians often require a variety of specialized environments, temperatures, humidity levels. The retinas of rats are highly sensitive to light because they're largely nocturnal and are actually often damaged at light levels comfortable to us as human beings. Because of these factors, the survivability of these animals in people's homes is often very poor. Surveys have indicated that over 70% of exotic animals die within just 6 weeks at wholesalers, and of the 45 million pet fish in the United Kingdom, around 90% are dead within a year. Capture of exotic animals to fuel private collections is often ecologically damaging as well. We often find in surveys of markets in the originating countries that a significant proportion of animals on sale are actually endangered and being illegally sold. There can also be ecological impacts if non-native species are released or escape into the environment. In London, for example, one study found that some 51 species of exotic pet reptiles and amphibians were living wild. In Australia, animals such as rabbits, cats, foxes, and even cane toads have been released by earlier settlers and spread across the landscape, contributing to the mass extinction of mammal species in Australia. Non-native species may also displace native species when they outcompete them, as is occurring, for example, in the United Kingdom, as the introduced grey squirrel is spreading northwards and unfortunately contributing to the mass decline of the native red squirrel. There can also be risks for owners and animals caused by zoonotic diseases, which are those which are transmissible between humans and animals. Caged birds, for example, have been found to harbour at least 15 types of zoonotic pathogen. Over 1/4 of all children hospitalised because of salmonella contamination are believed to have acquired their infections from pet reptiles. Further injuries are regularly sustained by owners of large carnivores such as lions and tigers, the owners of venomous snakes, and also pet tarantulas, scorpions, and other dangerous animals. Millions of these animals are being kept as pets, and they seem to be increasingly popular. Accordingly, a complete ban on their ownership seems unlikely to occur. One solution could be the creation of different categories of animals, with those that are considered to be most dangerous to people or to other animals, or most difficult to be kept in captivity, being banned, and perhaps with increased education available to support keepers of less difficult animals. Exotic animal species are some of the most amazing and wonderful creatures with whom we share our planet, and the legal and illegal trade in these animals for private collections, zoos, aquaria, laboratories and other uses is unfortunately contributing greatly to their decline.